Red Brick Media. High quality CDs, DVDs, lectures, khutbah, conferences and Quran recitations. All revenue generated supports our dawah work. Support us by visiting our store. You can now purchase directly from our site www.redbrickmedia.co.uk.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A just ruler, a man or a young man who was brought up worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. The third is a person whose heart is attached to the masjids. These are the three that Allah Azza wa Jal would shade in His shade on the Day of Judgment. May Allah make me and you among them. But there are other four to complete the seven, as in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The fourth are two who fell in love, not a man and a woman, but a man and a man, or a woman and a woman. Yet their love is not sexual. Their love is not physical. Their love is not based on interests that they share. Their love is based for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And I may take a friend and love him, but not for the sake of Allah. Because he's funny, because he's rich, because he knows people, because he usually tells me jokes that I've never heard. This is not for the sake of Allah. The love for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal is when you love someone because he's obedient to Allah Azza wa Jal, because he respects his parents, because he is generous and kind, and he prays in the masjid, and he connects to the next of kin, his kinship. So you love him because of the acts that he does worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the love for the sake of Allah. When the Prophet came ﷺ to Medina, he found people fighting, tribes engaging in wars that last for tens of years, last for hundreds of years. Yet when he went there and he showed them the Quran and they saw his sunnah and they realized his character, Allah Azza wa Jal joined their hearts and made them all in synchronization and tranquility. And they became the best of friends. They were so close together, much more than their own flesh and blood, much more than their own siblings. They became brothers for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And such friendship is difficult to sever and to break. However, any other friendship that is not for the sake of Allah would turn on the Day of Judgment into enmity and hatred. The Prophet, Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran that the best of friends in this life would turn into enemies on the Day of Judgment, except those who are righteous and fearful of Allah Azza wa Jal. And this kind of love between the two for the sake of Allah elevates the people in paradise to levels that they would not have deserved it by their own deeds. A man comes to the Prophet ﷺ, a nomad, and he says, "O Prophet of Allah, a man loves people, but he cannot catch up with them. What to do?" And he's referring to paradise. And the Prophet understood the question and he said, a man is with those whom he loves on the Day of Judgment. Anas, whenever he said this hadith, used to weep and cry. And he says, by Allah, I love the Prophet ﷺ, and I love Abu Bakr, and I love Umar, and I pray to Allah that I'm with them on the Day of Judgment. Look at this love. Two who met and separated on the love of Allah Azza wa Jal. So if you look at these two, they met not because of interest, of positions, of jobs, of wealth, of anything else. They met because they loved one another for the sake of Allah. And when they separated by death or by travel, they also kept this love for the sake of Allah between them. The Prophet ﷺ told us about a man who went out of his house to visit a friend of his in another town. And on the road, Allah sends him an angel, and the angel asks him, "Where are you going?" And he says, "To visit my friend in such and such town." And he said, "Why did you go out to visit him? Do you want some money from him? Do you have some business to do with him?" And the man says, "No, I'm just going there for the sake of Allah. I love him for the sake of Allah." And the angel says, "I am the messenger of Allah to you, giving you the glad tidings that Allah Azza wa Jal loves you." Subhanallah. Allah Azza wa Jal loves you because you love this individual for the sake of Allah. Open your contact list in your mobile and scroll down and see how many can you write down to be your brothers in Islam and for the sake of Allah. If we do this and we are able to find like 2 or 3, you are among the fortunate ones. But if all these people in your contact list are your friends and they're your colleagues or your acquaintance, not because you love them for the sake of Allah, but because of other reasons, you have a problem. One of the signs of being a brother for the sake of Allah is that you defend your brother. You protect his reputation. You advise him to do good things. And when he wants to do something that is haram or bad for him, you give him a sincere advice and watch his back. Only then you would love this brother for the sake of Allah. May Allah make me and you among those whom are shaded in the shade of Allah on the Day of Judgment. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم